What's going on there, people? This is a bonus episode of What's Up, Flobo? 232 episodes of a show that I didn't really think was going to make it this far. You guys know the idea, the origin was I was at AfterBuzz TV as a host talking about TV shows. And originally, I wanted to be able to have a show just to tell you what's going on outside of the AfterBuzz desk. But, a pandemic and going 3 times a week live later. It's become a bit of a Wednesday update. Originally did just to show you what's going on after Buzz. It evolved into what's working and things I'm working on in the pandemic. And now it's kind of like a travel log as I get back to a sense of normalcy, which wasn't a word until the 20th century. Unlike most episodes or most recent episodes, I am live right now. So you guys can pile in and give me all that smoke. Give me all of your comments, questions, and concerns as we rock. Because I gotta say, I have some news. But before I do, just want to say thank you so much for helping this thing be a thing. And there's many ways you can support the show. Patreon.com/Flobo Boyce. We call it the Boisterous Crew. That's where we have bonus content, polls, my Flobo Try series where I try crazy food and activities, Flobito's book club where I sit down and discuss a book that is on my Kindle reading list, Flobo's on Netflix, these stand-up comedy specials exclusively, and more. And everyone gets access to New Amsterdam Radio show notes. So if you want to know how I craft each episode with my guests, become a member of the Boisterous Crew. Patreon.com/Flobo Boys. If you're not really into that whole ongoing charge for content thing, you can buy me a coffee. It's kind of like a virtual tip jar. Buymeacoffee.com/Flobo Boys as well. And hey, look, man, I know fall's coming up. You want to get yourself a nice long sleeve t-shirt or sweatshirt or even some shorts. Flobito.threadless.com. That's how you do it. That's how you look fresh and support the homies. You should always try to support your homies. That's what it's about. Well, the news is this, as you can tell by the title of today's episode, this is the final episode of What's Up, Flobo. Can't believe it's come so quick, but you know what? It's time. And I want to say, if you watched some of the old stuff, that I am enamored. I'm impressed. I'm so glad you're able to rock with me for almost 3 years now, 2 years and change with this show. The name came from my former coworker, Steph Sabra, who every time she saw me walk into AfterBuzz, she'd be like, "What's up, Flobo?" It's kind of like this warm, inviting thing. So I totally took that name from that. It's the way she pronounced it. That's why it's "What's Up" and not "What's Up." What's going on, Flobito? What's up, Flobo? That's it. And it went from being weekly on Fridays to going 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, to Wednesday, Friday, to every Wednesday here with you. But I'm not going to just say my boo-hoos and goodbyes. I just want you to know that it's time. So let's have a giant episode of What's Up, Flobo before we go. And I'm shooting live. So if you somehow pile in and I have a question, comment, or concern, you let me know. Friend of mine, filmmaker Darrell Wharton Rigby, friend of mine now, because I did his thesis film as an editor in grad school, and I told him he took years off my life. Sent me this cool article from the Military Officers Association of America, and it turns out, and I didn't really know this, that in the wake of Top Gun Maverick, that the first Top Guns were actually black. I'm like, yeah, an offshoot of the Tuskegee Airmen of the 1940s in World War II. These guys flew planes for freedom. And that is inspiring, and that should be a movie unto itself. Although, when Top Gun Maverick did come out, I go, another one. But that's really more of Tom Cruise fatigue, because you all know he does his own stunts. He has to be the guy in the middle of the scene. They're like, Tom Cruise, you can't do this. Yes, I can. Oh, yeah, Tom Cruise? Prove it. And Tom Cruise proves it. Doesn't matter what movie we're talking about. Mission Impossible, Top Gun, that's just the way he gets down. You know what I mean? So I wasn't necessarily enamored in having part 2 of Maverick, but knowing the story now. I mean, the picture featured here, I actually put the link in the chat below while we're all shooting this live. Lieutenant Colonel James Harvey III as one of the 2 surviving team members of the first Top Gun. That right there is just pretty Cool. I didn't know that. I'm going to look at that a lot more. I know a couple of years ago, there was a movie called Red Tails by George Lucas. I think he produced it. Was it good? It was big and dumb. But I always tell people it's a good sign when we, or people of color, have big, dumb movies. Not every movie has to be about the struggle if it's going to be for black folk, right? Crazy Rich Asians is an example I always use. Didn't like the premise. I thought it was silly. But when it came out, damn sure I went and bought a full price ticket because Asian people deserve just a movie about silly stuff happening. They don't need to talk about the struggle all the time. So I love Red Tails for that reason. It's big, dumb, and all the other ways. So I want to check out that more. I'm inspired to maybe write something about that, maybe for Patreon. Maybe even have a little side project. I know Darryl Warden is a filmmaker. He's always thinking about other things as well as far as his next project. So props to him. Oh, gotta give a shout out to Bonita Lot for this dope coffee mug. It says, but first coffee. I had to make sure I held it in my left hand, which is funny because, I'm left-handed. Sometimes I hold coffee cups in both hands. That's why most of my coffee cups are blank. But this one is too good to hold in there. But first, coffee. Moving on, it always seems to afflict me around this time of the year. If you guys know, around this time, I had a knee injury, my left knee injury. I thought I tore an ACL or an MCL or pulled a sprain or something, one of those inner working ligaments, and I couldn't run for about 2 months. And I had to go to physical therapy for the first time. And I realized healthcare system in this country is weird because physical therapy is considered top priority. And so I couldn't find a doctor. So I had to pay out of pocket. Turns out, thankfully and graciously, just that my quadriceps and my hamstrings were just so tight, they had to knead it out 3 times a week. And 6 months later, my right knee, quote unquote, the bad knee, had that problem and I couldn't run as well. So I think I'm good. I got both my legs back. I'm feeling dope. And then I have myself another leg injury. I actually have a cut, an open wound due to a wayward eczema outbreak. I do have eczema. Has been taking its time. The thing is, it's on the ankle line. So socks, shoes, always rub on it. So I got to not work out, but I've been trying to work out because frankly, I get so paranoid by getting fat that I have to move, right? And so I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos trying to get into it, but I'm not a home exercise guy. I don't know if I can show you this. I have a kettlebell that I keep sometimes. It's 40 pounds. Sometimes I lift this, but truthfully, it's become a footrest in later days. And then I have one of those workout bars. But the cheapest thing for me is to go out for a run. And so have been able to go on a proper jog. I think I went running one time 2 weeks ago, but I have been going for a proper jog in 3 weeks. I'm feeling it, man. Pants are fitting a little tighter. I'm not sure about your body, but I get my weight gain in my thighs first and then my arse. And then I feel it in my love handles. And so then I kind of you're in denial. Oh yeah, the wash got it. The dryer got it. And then you're like, no, I haven't worked out in about a week and a half, but French fries taste so good. I know it's the summer woe for me. I'm hoping a speedy recovery will get me back into fighting shape so I can get down there and start those sexy photos for the fall or winter time. Imagine if I did sexy photos. Would you watch that? Would you download that? Let me know in the comments below because this is the final episode of Wassup Flobo. Moving on. Got to give a shout out to Shannon and Jerry Arner, the founders of the Arner Adventures podcast. They were on my podcast, New Amsterdam Radio, in the thick of the pandemic. Give me a second. We chopped it up about their tribe, their followers on social media, how they're able to travel and see the world and all of that. And Jenna hit me up and was like, hey, can I just talk to you about podcasting? And kind of wanted a blueprint how to get started. And people always say, my cynical friends say, you should probably charge. And I go, you know what? I'm not the only source of knowledge of that. I can help you out if you like. Put some couple of dollars in the tip jar. And she did. She bought me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/FloboBoyce. And so the Arner Adventures podcast was born. And they had a couple episodes. They're loving the experience. Their followers are loving the social media posts. But I was asked last week to appear on their podcast as a guest. And I said, sure, why not? And it was just so fun to watch people start from zero essentially in the podcast space, actually build their empires and being a part of that, even though I would try to dismiss the credit, but I did help on some level. But it's cool to see people taking your advice and running with. Many people try to hit you up and ask, hey man, can I pick your brain? And I hate that phrase because one, it sounds absolutely disgusting. But two, a lot of people just come out, they take your knowledge and they leave. And either they say it's their own knowledge, or worse, don't apply the knowledge they get. And so a lot of people who are busy, not saying that I'm the most busiest person, but those who are busy go, I'm in no mood to talk. Don't worry about it. Don't pick my brain. Don't buy me lunch. You could buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. That's Flobito Boyce. But don't try to hit up somebody who's famous to go, I would love to pick your brain. Because basically you're saying, hey, look, I want to suck your knowledge. I want to buy you food. I got to give it out to the Honor Adventures family because they weren't like that. We just had an open conversation about what expectations were, what it means to achieve, and I was more than willing to share because I understand concept of gatekeepers, and gatekeepers are no fun. The Star Trek show Commander's Log was founded because there's so many Star Trekkies and Trekkers out there that said I wasn't a true fan because my first Star Trek was Discovery. I said, oh yeah? Well, I did an entire show from a perspective of a new fan. I hate gatekeepers. So when someone comes to me and they say, hey, look, I'd like to have a discussion. These are my expectations for the discussion. Can you help me out in these areas? That to me was way more direct, way more genuine, way more honest than saying, hey, let me pick your brain about the podcasting. And it's thriving. So if you haven't followed the Honor Adventures podcast, do that now. I think my episode's coming out a little later. Make sure you do that. It's a very cool vibe, very chill. They have a dog called Betty Ross. So I got to give a prop to them for that because they totally named their dog after a legend. Speaking about things with a bit of notoriety, what is the deal with the monkeypox? What is the deal with the monkeypox? I don't get it, man. Like, unlike COVID, there is vaccines for it. There are drug treatments for it. But still, to quote Hulk Hogan, it's running wild, brother. And I know the original reports were saying things like, well, it's only affecting MSMs. It's only affecting this segment of the population. But you and I both know that people interact on different levels and wavelengths. It's only a matter of time. They told us when we were younger not to abuse drugs because things would be harder to stop. They always told you to get your shots because things would be harder to stop. And I guess a combination of those two are bringing back these old diseases like their throwback jerseys. Like, hey, it's me, monkeypox, bro. Like, and I, not to make light of it, but the people who are suffering from it are suffering, man. It looks painful on a physical level and a psychological level. And I lamented how weird I feel nowadays walking into a room with a mask on. But there's got to be something that has to change as far as like our basic interaction or hygiene, or maybe handshakes will be a thing of the past a generation or two from now. Maybe I am being a little bit doom and gloom about it. But this thing is serious. What up, JLJ Media? Thanks for coming on the final episode of Wassup Flobo special edition here on a Thursday, August 11th. So yes, please wear your mask out there. I carry it. I feel weird tonight. I go to the back of the restaurant. If there's some space, I take it off, sure. But people are walking around like, you still do that? Like I'm wearing slap bracelets or something. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, no, you don't look. All the things that are now health emergencies are things that we've seen identified, right? There's other things that are out there. And yes, your immune system is complex. And yes, it's robust, but you must be out your mind to think your human body can tackle everything because you take vitamins or kombucha. It is just crazy out there. But yes, please be safe. Please be safe. Oh, so I had asked if you had any questions. LJ asked, has this show helped you in life? Now, the short answer is yes, but in two ways. Because I don't really divulge into the personal life of your boy, a lot of times, even fans of my work say there seems to be a wall between you and your work. And I never see it that way. I never try to be that way. But there's always that someone that pulls me aside and say, knowing me for a year, going, I can't figure you out. So Wassup Flobo was an attempt at that. It was, yo, here's something that's on my mind. Here are things that make me angry. Like the episode where a friend of mine kept, and you know our friend JLJ, who kept treating me as if I didn't know anything in my industry. I said, look, I trained formally in this, that filmmaker, production, writer. Or the time when people were like, I don't know where to find you online. I listed out all the places you could find me online. Or if I said I had a couple episodes about how hard it was to online date, like that to me was how it helped me. So I say blatantly, I am telling you people about my life. You cannot say that I have a guard up, even though I don't feel there's a guard up ever with the show. So help me out with that. Also, what I was trying to do with this my manly side, I got this my key fob for my car broke off my keychain. It's a weirdly designed key fob thing. My second one broke off, so now I have a key fob that works, but it can't attach to my keys. And I called the dealer, and the dealer's like, "Oh yeah, I can give you a brand new key, but it'll set you back $300." And I go, "Are you what? Yo, you already have me on the hook for thousands of dollars for my vehicle. I gotta pay you hundreds for another way to enter the vehicle that I'm paying." So it turns out that if you have two working ones, I learned this out myself, and you buy a aftermarket, you can program the aftermarket to respond to your vehicle. And I thought to myself, man, we do live in exciting times, because there was a time where you either had to know a guy or just get raked over the coals when it came to things like that. Like, who had a key fob guy like that? That's crazy. YouTube and eBay, bang bang. And that really puts things into perspective, that when you do something on YouTube like this show, it's kind of out there forever, and hopefully you wish someone takes information or are entertained from them. But on the other way, I'm still learning things. I felt way more manly being like, "Oh yeah, dealer, well, I found myself a workaround." Man, right here. A couple years ago, I changed my shower head. I got one of those like alternating like jet pulsing ones. I felt like I was Bob Vila when it was done. I go, yeah, I screwed it one off. I screwed it on. Have a little bit of those plumber's tape. I am a genius. And it's really cool that we can do that. I know there's a lot of YouTube channels out there now that are like Dad, How Do I, for example, that just teaches you how to do things like that. And I'm not going to be a liar and be like, oh, my dad never taught me anything. Homeboy tried. Granted, he didn't do everything correctly, but he did try to sit me down sometimes. But yo, this is how you rewire a wall. But I'm like, Pop, I'm 6 years old. I'm waiting 2 years from now for Power Rangers to drop. I don't need to hear all that. And now he's kind of like an old curmudgeon, so I wouldn't ask him. But it's good to have that information at the ready. I think that's pretty cool, a sign of the times. Yes, right. Daddy G, information age for the win. You're locked into the final episode of What's Up Flobo, your usual Wednesday delight, now on Thursday, as I wrap this up. But got the new key fob. Go to program this afternoon. If it blows up my face, I'll just have to have 2 sets of keys in my pocket. But I'm sure it's going to work out because, heck, I have video evidence that it works out. So why not to that? And shout out to dealers who basically ran me out because they could have made a quick $100 if they said that. But saying multiple hundreds of dollars to do a simple thing really ticked me off. Yesterday, August 10th, 2022, was my 8-year comedy anniversary. I didn't even realize it until, ironically, I met a friend of mine, Jonathan Bowles, and we started talking about comedy, what was next for me. I think I said in a couple episodes, but in 2020, I felt like I was at a plateau with my comedy, and it really was an opportunity for me to take the show on the road. So I had some shows in Florida lined up, Alaska, Japan, and then the world shut down. Not complaining, just saying what it was. And everything had to put on hold as far as me traveling. But then I had to find new outlets for my creative oeuvre, right? And so there was a comedy type shows like What's Up Flobo After Hours. There was the same Star Trek show being funny. There was me doing comedy songs like Alone in the Club and Money Shuffle. But comedy was the original thing. I became a host at AfterBuzz not to become a host, but because I wanted to get a following to get booked as a comedian. So with the anniversary, I had called John up and I go, I want to know what's next for me. What do I got to do to get my 3rd album out there? If you guys haven't heard, Cookies and Beer, my first special, and American for Now, my 2nd special, available wherever you get your podcast. And John is always a supporter. So I try to make this as fair as I can. And I expected him in the back of my head to be like, oh yeah, a comedy show? You want me to help? Yippee, let's go. But he was like, what are you trying to say this time? And I can't not creative friends that challenge you. Not all the time. Sometimes you're kind of like, you know what, you don't get it. But sometimes when you're like, yeah, I want to do this, and you go, okay, have you thought about this, that, and that? Great, you have. Let's go. That is something. I just saw this from JLJ. JLJ says, will you still call your mother LOL? You know what's funny about this? It's because it's been so crazy with not so much the amount of work I do, but how unorthodox my schedule is. I have not been calling home as much as I should. And I know that I not a day goes by I don't think about my parents, but I want to be able to, when I call them, to have everything open, or at least an hour open till the next thing. And that's been the thing. It's been like, oh, I got like 6 minutes. I'm gonna call my dad. I'm like, Dad, I got 6 minutes. How you doing? And so things get pushed and pushed and pushed. And so I hear like my parents say, like, oh, I don't know when you're free. I don't know. And I go, oh no, don't be sad. It's not like a cats in the cradle situation. I'm still sitting here eating ramen. I'm not really well off. Please don't leave me. But I guess I am gonna call my mother. I'm gonna try to be better at it. That's for sure. But yes, it's not going to go by the wayside. Whatever, what have you. But yes, 8 years doing comedy. I actually go in detail about this in my book, Graduation Day, available now on Amazon, where I took a comedy class. My graduation was August 10th. It was a Sunday at the Belly Room at the Comedy Store. Having your first show at the Comedy Store is like, having your first basketball game in the NBA Finals. It's that big. The Super Bowl being your first football game. It's just that big. And it was fun. I had a very supportive audience. I posted the clip on Twitter, so make sure you check it out on Twitter about that. It's been a journey, ups and downs, and I can tell you one of the biggest ups was being able to have 2 specials. It was being able to have my alma mater call me up and say, can you teach kids comedy? That was highlights, and there was a lot of lowlights, and that is this weird thing about collecting open mics. We talk about hustle culture when it comes to anything, and comedians at a certain level, so not straight novices, but not like working comics, have this thing where they go, I did 4 or 5 open mics a night. In some cities, it makes sense. You're in New York, you hop a sub, there's like 3 comedy clubs in the street, you hop a subway to another bank of comedy clubs and you're good. But LA, the distance and the timings of it is just so complex that it really becomes a thing to do rather than working on crafts. And I was falling out on that. Or the bringer shows where they say, yeah, you need to bring 5, 6, 7, 8 people or else you don't get stage time. And when you're new, when you're fresh meat, you are easy to be scooped up by a predatory producer because when 8 people come to see you do the thing called comedy new, that's 8 people buying tickets, 8 people drinking, 8 people having the time of their lives. They basically suck you dry and move on to the next new comic. And when I started doing comedy shows myself, I'm not saying I did that because there was never a bringer show. It wasn't like if you didn't bring anybody, I wouldn't put you on. But at first, when I had my own comedy show at Flappers Comedy in Burbank, I go, oh, I'm going to give myself 15 minutes every month. That way I can work on my bits. On average, I can bring 2 people, my girlfriend at the time and whoever she brought. But if I bring in that 15-minute time, 3 first-time or new comedians, and they bring their friends from work or their girlfriend's friends or their boys, I pack the house. And so it just made economical sense to do it that way. But as a new comic, it sucked me dry. When I posted that original comedy set, a lot of people hit me up and they go, oh, I love that Sally Mae joke. It's my favorite of mine. I say Sally Mae's my pimp. It was the first one to be retired, not because I didn't like the joke, but because I always felt guilty asking my friends to come out to these shows that needed these people to show up, these bringer shows to do them. I would write new material every time, which is something of a point of pride now. But as a developing comic, you don't want to do that. You want to be able to have a set, perfect it, then bank it. But I was doing brand new 3-minute sets, 5-minute sets every time because in my head, that's how Jay Leno did it, despite the fact he had writers. And I didn't want my friends to buy a ticket to see me do the same joke twice. And it wasn't until I got my first killer bit, the snowboarding bit, or the check it again bit where I started repeating stuff. But the first 6 months, I went through the ringer and I said, I can't do that. So people say, go and do comedy again. I go, there has to be a way for me to do it, to work on my craft on my terms. I can't do 6 comedy mics at night anymore. I can't do bringer shows. I don't have, my dope friends don't really mobilize like that for Tuesday nights anymore. They have families, they have kids. It's a whole different thing, but I don't think I'm done. As to what it's going to be, I don't know. JLD made a part of the comedy on the run of the book. Yeah, maybe if my life's interesting, I don't know. That's the thing. I got to find out if there's enough material. And I go back to fiction because I'm a fiction writer, James. I'm a fiction writer that my last fiction book was so bad that my mom still tells me it wasn't good, that I was going to quit writing. And I said, well, if I always want to quit writing, what if I haven't done? Let me write a nonfiction book. And the nonfiction book became the best seller I ever did. Graduation day available now. Danny G says, cannot wait to check out your albums. Please do. Let me know what you think. Cookies and Beer came out in 16. America for Now came out in 18. So hopefully I have grown from them. But at the time, those were the magnum opus. And well, I go through all my topics today. I'm at a thank you. That's right. Look, for weeks on this show, I've been saying and doing what's going to be next for Flobito. What's going to be in my channel. In fact, I was talking to JLJ last night on the phone for 2 hours going, what's going on? I do think there is times for changes and pivots. This YouTube channel has been around since 2006. And originally, it was just things I thought were cool, like most YouTube channels out there. Hey, it's a cool little video. Then it became my first ever vlog series called The Wall. And that was when at my old apartment, I would just sit up in the corner between two walls and say what was going on in my mind. And before that was a show called Flobo Chat, where it was basically this, where I was kind of like, man, grad school is so hard. Am I right? Why doesn't anyone agree with me? Oh, right, because no one goes to grad school when they're 22 years old. Only you, Flobito, you loser. Go out into the world first. So it's pivoted before. And right before I started doing Wassup Flobo, the original series, it was just a place to upload my comedy performances, which is now a playlist buried below. With Star Trek on hiatus, Draped in Gold at its peak, we're still trying to figure out what the channel's going to be. And I really wanted some feedback from you guys, and those who are close hit me up and say, I like this, I don't like this, I want to see more of this. But I know that as it is right now, the channel has peaked. Wassup Flobo was something I love doing. One, because I had one person guarantee was going to watch it, and my mama. And two, it was a little stressful because I didn't have to worry about production value because I'm literally telling you, this show is me talking at the screen. I don't need graphics. This right here, the little banners here, is extra because it's the last episode I'm doing. But I know there's going to be a next step for me. Just got to figure out what that is. I'm willing to hold up for a bit to make that pivot. And JLJ agrees. Change and recalibration is always good. That's what I'm talking about, baby. And so that to me is trying to figure out what is next up. I am calling my mother still, but I still want to thank you because there's times where I thought that this show's going to be dead in the water. When episode 100 came around, I got my brother on the show. People love that. The times I got JLJ asking me questions, James Lott Jr., follow that guy. He's available where all James Lott Jr.'s are sold. That was kind of fun. The times where we had a discussion about Dave Chappelle was kind of controversial, but that was fun because I was able to go in from a comedian's perspective. I think I still am a comedian. Or the times we're talking about things happening as far as the next step and blessings and manifesting and all that stuff. That stuff is great because there's no way to put that. There's no ways for me to brag elsewhere. I can't brag on my Draped in Gold show. I can't be like, welcome back to Draped in Gold. Guess what, bro? I got a DJ client this weekend. Like, it didn't make sense. So this was kind of the place for all of that. And the fact that I will upload it, not promote it, not tell anybody about it, and still get a dozen views just blows my mind. Like, who are these people hanging out waiting for Flobo Chat or The Wall or Wassup Flobo? But yeah, no need to run it to the ground. I just want to say I say this a lot, but I just want to say that this has been a ride. It's not done. I don't know what the next step is, but Wassup Flobo is okay to be sunsetted. We can always bring it back. We can always bring it back after hours. We can always bring back some of the more comedy workshop things where I had videos of how I write jokes. If you guys care about that, or you can leave it on Patreon, patreon.com/FloboBoyce. Make sure you check that out because we always have new and exclusive content there each and every single month. I just don't know. Thanks, Charlene. And even though Charlene wants me to become a Tony Hinchcliffe fan, I respect the fact that you were an OG and you rolled with us through AfterBuzz and beyond. A lot of the people fell off during the AfterBuzz era. They're kind of like, no AfterBuzz, I'm out. But you were actually one of the real ones. You came through on After Hours a couple times. You know, I'm sure it was late. And that was the thing with After Hours. I love that show. I might bring it back because the reason why I couldn't do it It was at 10 p.m. Pacific on a Monday, which was the worst time to do a show. It's late on the West Coast, even later on the East Coast. It's 6 a.m. in England, so getting guests were always difficult. But towards the end, we got 25, 35, 45 people in the chat just talking about wrestling, talking about things that were going on. It was a good time. Charlene, guest just comes in, said, how's comedy going? It's now slowly but surely grinding. I had a meeting yesterday with a friend of mine on my 8-year comedy anniversary about the third album, what that third special looks like, even though specials aren't really special anymore because you could basically just film yourself outside, inside. Netflix can buy your special and put it on and bury it within other specials. And is it really special at that point? I mean, I'm just being bitter. But when I was a kid, there was only 8 comedy albums a year. And if you got one of those, you were special. But yes, it's slow but surely going back. Writing is happening now. I'm just trying to figure out, what does Flobo Boyce, the comedian, what does he have to say? And I always compare myself to Richard Pryor in this instance. Not saying I'm Richard Pryor's level, but there was a time in his career where he was saying a certain kind of material, didn't appreciate his own material, took a couple of years off, went to San Francisco, came back and became the Richard Pryor we all know and love today. Maybe I need something like that. Although I've been to San Francisco twice, it's a cool place to visit. I wouldn't stay there any extended time. But Charlene says, now I'm a huge Greg Stone and Mateo Lane fan. Try their comedy out. And Mateo Lane's hilarious. I will give you an assessment if I ever decide to do a comics critique. But if you want to know about how I feel about comedy specials, become a member of the Boisterous crew. Patreon.com/FloboBoys. Every month I break down a Netflix comedy special on Flobo. Saw it on Netflix. You know how it goes. All right. By the time we get out of here, 31 minutes for a show that usually goes between 5 and 10. Episode 232, the final episode. So I got to say, got to put it out there into the universe one final time. Do your best. That's Jack Farmer's thing. Be nice to each other. Call your mother. Please support the homie if you can. And support other homies too, not just me, but definitely me. Support the heck out of me, but support your other homies as well, because they're trying out here, trying to figure out how to entertain you as the world keeps changing. Yo, I'm out. See you around. I'll be back here on this channel on Thursdays for Draped in Gold, but you can always follow me on that social media handle there. Flobo Boyce is on Twitter. That's public. At Flobo Boyce on Instagram is my private backup, but I still use that sometimes for my comedy stuff and my other cool pictures. But at Flobito on Instagram is a public one. FLOBITO. Call your mother for me. I'm out.